This talk will help you in understanding worry from a deep perspective, along with a variety of scenarios and examples, followed by a guided meditation commentary. You are free to visit any section directly based on the timestamps mentioned. However, I would recommend you to go in a serial order. Also, you do not need to watch this entire video in one sitting. Every single thing that you think about or visualize comes true or manifests in your life because that is what you go out there and look for. Whether it is positive or negative, if you are thinking about something, if you are visualizing something, you are expecting that in your life, and that comes true by the virtue of the law of attraction. As you may know by now, if you have been on this journey for a while now, worry is negative thinking. Worrying is negative visualization. Therefore, every single thing that you worry about comes true in one form or another. Now, you may say that you don't really go out there and look for those negativities, isn't it? Nobody would do that. But then, by looking for, I mean that you are sensitive to those kinds of behaviors or those kinds of incidents, those kinds of situations, or those kinds of thoughts within your own mind as well. You are sensitive to, or you tend to think negative in that direction. Now, we are specifically talking about worry here, which is negative thinking. Tendencies is one of the best words that one can use in order to define or describe how your thinking impacts or influences your experiences in life. So, when you worry about something, that is, visualize something negative about something, it could be a small thing or a big thing as well. The size of that worry does not really matter, but it is negative, and that is what needs to be changed. So, essentially, your sensitivity towards negativity or your tendency to feel negative in specific situations needs to be modified, and this is what this talk is about. Subscribe to my YouTube channel Manifest with Sagar, and don't forget to hit the bell icon to receive the latest updates. If you remember one of my very old photo life hacks in which I had written that just like something, appreciate it purely, and then forget about it, you will receive it in your life. That was specifically about positive desires or positive manifestations that you want in your life. But that equally applies to negativities as well, because when you think some, and you may have experienced this as well, that when you think negative about something, it is almost like an intuition. You think negative about something and then you forget about it. That comes true very, very precisely in your life. That's because that is essentially what you are looking for or pulling towards yourself or magnetizing towards yourself. That is what you are sensitive to, and that is your tendency in that kind of situation. Let's take an example: a shopkeeper behaving badly with multiple people. One customer may not feel anything at all. Another person would feel very, very bad about it. Another person would come back home and overthink about why that person must have felt bad. I am a victim here, and something is probably wrong with my energy, due to which I am continuing to magnetize that situation. All that you had to do in that situation was change the shop. But then, because of your tendency or sensitivity towards a specific kind of negative situation, now it could be multiple types of negative situations that are very, very specific as well, not just one. You felt negative, isn't it? Like I said, some others would not feel bad at all. Someone else would just fight back with that person and then come back home and not feel anything about it at all, because that is that person's nature. But then here comes the choice as to whether you want to continue to be sensitive or tend to feel negative about certain types of negative scenarios or not. It is a very clear cut choice, and you can start building yourself on that understanding from right now as well. Sometimes you may hear some people saying that you should worry so that that worry does not come true, or worrying basically means that that situation will never come true at all. That is not true at all, because every single thing that you are worrying about is being pulled by you itself. You do not worry about the situation itself, you worry about feeling negative in the situations that you perceive to be negative, isn't it? So the situation is essentially irrelevant. The feeling is what is relevant, isn't it? So it is about the essence, it is about that negative feeling. And as long as you continue to create worryful thoughts in your own mind, those keep manifesting because you continue to keep yourself weak. Your ability to deal with a variety of negative situations stays weak when you worry about things. And that should be a very good motivation to not worry about things. What is worry essentially? Worry is creating or generating unnecessary or wasted thoughts, wasted energy about hypothetical scenarios. That is essentially the definition or understanding of worry, isn't it? If you continue to think negative on a regular basis, you continue to keep yourself weak. So, your capability to cope up with those kinds of, not necessarily those exact situations, isn't it? Those kinds of negative situations stays weak, stays very low. That capability stays very low. And then you say that what I thought about came true. My worry came true. It did not really come true. You made it happen by the virtue of your own actions. So I hope by now it is clear that the worry is not about the situation itself, but it is about you feeling bad. So you are generating negativity right now by just visualizing or hypothetically thinking about something that has not yet occurred. That is what worry is. And this is not about right and wrong. That does not mean that you are a bad person, but it is a choice as to whether I want to continue to keep this as my nature, or do I really want to become a more powerful person and transcend above these bad thinking habits, isn't it? Worry can be about a variety of situations. It could be about people issues, relationship issues, money issues related to jobs, careers, health, death as well. On my WhatsApp group, Awaken with Sagar, I had asked for some worry scenarios to people, and all of these areas were mentioned. We will address all of them in this talk, but then understanding the underlying problem within us is very, very important. All that you have to do in any situation is begin to build yourself, and that does not happen automatically. You have to spend some time and take some efforts in order to build yourself. So let's start heading in the solution direction. Building your immunity and having correct priorities in life is very, very important, and that always helps. That is, if certain types of scenarios occur in my life, how do I deal with them? There are some people who would fight in those scenarios. Are they wrong? Are they bad people? Not necessarily. But that is not an approach that you would want to take, isn't it? Because that generates more negativity. So you are already negative. That situation is also negative. And then you multiply the negativity by behaving badly in that situation. Now, if you may have done that in the past, or if that continues to happen once in a while with you, that's still fine, because you are at least working on yourself. That is extremely important. So positivity is a choice, isn't it? I can continue to be a rude, aggressive, arrogant fighter with everybody, or I can continue to be more immune. I can continue to focus on myself more. I can continue to skip and smartly avoid scenarios as much as I can, isn't it? These are two different lifestyle choices, in fact. So building yourself is where this starts from, and that can only happen when you understand yourself on a regular basis, when you reconnect with yourself on a regular basis. Now, as far as worry is concerned, it is always about a future scenario based on your past experiences, isn't it? You would never worry about something that has never occurred in your life so far. Or you can worry about everything about the future. That is also another way of living, or another choice, I would say. But that is a pretty extreme scenario, a person who would worry about every single thing about the future. You generally worry about future scenarios based on your past experiences. We do not worry about things that have not occurred with us. And we also know that the situations that have happened in our lives have never repeated in our lives. We know that, but then we still worry about the repetition or reoccurrence of those negative scenarios. That's because we fear that the history would repeat itself. But then now, just keep in your mind very strongly that history, in terms of these physical scenarios, repeats only if I continue to think negative about those scenarios, or if I continue to think negatively about certain types of scenarios. If I change my thinking, those people change. Those people are either no longer there, or the people themselves have completely become new individuals, because everybody changes, situations change. But then if your thinking remains the same, no matter where you go, you continue to pull or magnetize or be sensitive to or tend to look for those negativities, and that is what needs to stop, isn't it? So even though worry is hypothetical, a scenario that you create about the future in your mind based on your past experiences, it is your job now to change that scenario within your own mind. And you do not really need to do too much work in that direction. Just have two, three, four thoughts that I will talk about during a guided meditation commentary that is part of this talk. And those thoughts are enough for you to keep yourself charged. You have to keep yourself charged, isn't it? You cannot think enough about possible negative scenarios, or you cannot be prepared for something that has not occurred. In that sense, all that you can be is stay charged. That is being prepared. All that you can do is stay positive as a human being in general. That is enough. That is what being prepared means. You cannot really prepare for something that has not occurred, because if you prepare for a negative situation, that negative situation will definitely occur in your life, like a challenge, because you yourself have created that in your own mind. And it may not happen when you are expecting it, it will happen when you release it. Because like something, appreciate it, or do not like something, do not appreciate it, feel bad about it, and then release it into the universe. That always comes true. So it is wise, it is a smart choice to continue to build positivity on a regular basis, to not care about a negative scenario that you think might come true, because it will not come true unless and until you create it in your own mind. Now, specific examples about worrying about money, worrying about your career or job, worrying about the people in your life, interactions with them, worrying about health of other people as well, worrying about someone else's death as well, or facing situations after someone's death as well. Any kind of scenario, big or small, or a variety of scenarios, there is only one solution always, and that is to continue to head in the correct direction. But then that can be understood when you realize that your journey is your own. By you thinking positive about somebody else, it does not help or influence or impact the other person at all. It may motivate the person based on how ready or willing that person is to consume your positive behavior, or the same applies to negativity as well. If you behave negatively with someone, if the person is utterly positive, that person would be completely unaffected by your behavior, isn't it? So you are an individual. What happens in other people's lives, will come to the money part and other things also, but then how someone behaves is their behavior. Whether you feel bad about it or not is up to you. This is the crux of everything. There is no other solution. There is no magic wand that one can wave and change people or kill people as well, isn't it? Avada Kedavra does not work in real life. Your wishes come true only for yourself, not in other people's lives. Everybody has their own destiny. Everybody has their own thinking process. Everybody has come with their own sets of energies. So, first of all, when it comes to other people, let them behave the way they want to behave. So you worry because you care, so stop caring. One of my very favorite affirmations that I have to make a tattoo of is I care, but I don't care. I care, but I don't care. So I care about my relationships, but I do not care about the negativities that they bring into my life. In the sense, if I have a partner and that partner is there, so I care about that person, but if that person sometimes behaves erratically, I don't care about that part. I have my parents and they are very nice to me and I love them. They are part of my life. I care about them. I care for them. But then they behave weird sometimes. They do not understand me sometimes. I do not care about that part. I care about the money that flows into my life, but I do not care about my inability to save it as well. So I care about everything positive. I do not care about everything negative. What happens with this kind of an attitude, the reason why that I care but I don't care affirmation is excellent, is that you chop off the negativity. You just clear out the negativity from your own mind by just building a partition in between negativity and positivity, basically compartmentalizing positivity and negativity and then pushing negativity away, basically kicking it out of your own mind. That is very, very, very important, and that always works. Now, as far as people are concerned, like I said, they have their own understanding about life. They keep changing. They are the way they are. They may never change as well. They may continue to change in the worst direction, but then you have to build your own immunity. You have to say to yourself that that person is how they are. They do not define my worth. That person is living his or her destiny. If someone has sugar or diabetes and that person does not walk, you cannot make that person walk, isn't it? You can just tell them a couple of hundred times to walk, and the fact that that is the only solution to regulate your diabetes. But if that person is not ready to listen, that is that person's destiny. Now, this is just probably an extreme example, but then in cases where you really care about someone else's health, that person has to take care of their own health. You cannot take care of anybody else's mental or physical health at all that you can do is continue to stay positive in your own life and let them grab the essence of that positivity. That is what works. You have to stay the way you are and let people grasp or grab the positivity. You cannot influence others. You can just be yourself, be a beautiful creature, and let people observe you and try to be like you. That is what positive influence is. So you have to be such a great person from within, such a strong muscle from within, that you are just immune to other people's behaviors or what happens in other people's lives. Everybody has to take care of their own selves. A parent cannot protect his or her child. Children cannot really take care of their parents in that sense. Each individual has to take care of himself or herself. We are together so that we can influence each other positively, so that we can crack jokes with each other, so that we can laugh together, so that we can share food, cook for each other, make each other smile, share our happy experiences, and live beautiful lives together while we are together. That is all that life is about. Nothing else is really in your hands. You can take examples from your life itself. For example, in a situation where the negativity level must have reached -2, but because you were +3 or +4, you did not really feel that negativity. But in a similar situation or any kind of situation when the negativity level was -2, but because you were -1, you felt that negativity as compared to when you were +3 or +4. So it comes down to you. It's about you. It's about how positive you keep yourself by regularly practicing reconnection with yourself. And reconnection with yourself means continuing to stay chilled and positive and cool about life, not taking life too seriously, enjoying life as much as you can, and continuing to head in the positive direction by being self loving, self caring, and continuing to motivate yourself. Like I said, there are so many worry scenarios that you can create. You can sit down and write down 100 worry scenarios, isn't it? But then you cannot really bring up solutions for each one of them, because first of all, those worry scenarios are infinite in number, and worrying is your hypothetical thinking, and life is your dynamic creation. So, that exact specific worry scenario would never be manifested in that exact form. It will be tweaked in one form or another while it is being manifested, and that is wholly and solely dependent on how your energy is at that point of time. So, those scenarios or those future scenarios are very, very dynamic. They will continue to change. That very same worry scenario would turn out to be an extremely positive scenario as well. Why not think in that way, isn't it? Therefore, it is important to not block yourself because of what is happening in your mind. Continue to keep your mind open. Continue to look for possibilities. Continue to think about possibilities. Continue to remember those experiences when negativity was happening with you, but you were so elevated that you did not feel it at all. This is how you keep yourself positive, isn't it? Another thing that I often practice is changing worry to curiosity. Why not go out there and learn from it? I look forward to that scenario that I worry about. In the sense, I'm not looking forward to someone's death or someone's bad health, but I'm looking forward to how I would like to look at it positively when it occurs. But then again, its occurrence is very, very dynamic. So it is futile to think about worry, and that is what worry is essentially: wasted energy about hypothetical scenarios, which is a completely futile activity as well. Change worry to humor as well. Now, you may have heard of changing anger to humor, and when I first spoke about it, I had first thought about it. Maybe somebody else must have written or spoken before me about this, but then what I speak is based on what I think about for the very first time, because what I receive is from the author of all the authors. That is a separate discussion altogether. But you can always, that is something that I do, change my worry to humor. I laugh it off. I crack jokes with people about things that I worry about, and I notice that those things lighten up, those experiences lighten up, and then my energy level goes up, which is when I become completely immune. Now, being able to face that correctly is a very important step as well, isn't it? So, like I said, you can fight in a difficult situation, or you can be calm in a difficult situation. You can get flustered about something in a negative scenario, or you can be chilled and not really caring in a negative scenario as well. You can be yourself, or you can just get sucked into that negative scenario and lose your balance, lose your temper, and lose your self esteem, and lose your character as well. Those are all choices. All of this, whether it is dance or positive thinking, it needs practice. So regular practice is very, very essential. That is where the guided meditation commentary at the end of this talk will definitely help. Every individual has their own choice, isn't it? If I am being rude to you right now, I may not be consciously choosing it. I may feel like as if this is how the way is to behave with such kinds of people. But if I am being rude right now, I am choosing to be rude without awareness, without knowing that there are two choices. I may be behaving by my default, could be rudeness, isn't it? But that is a choice that I am making, because now we know the truth is that there are two choices, isn't it? When we are in an arrogant mode, we think that that is the only mode. But with awareness, with awakening, especially awakening with Sagar, you realize that there are two different choices, isn't it? If I am being unhealthy, it is a choice that I am making in my life. If I eat unhealthy foods every day, that is a choice, isn't it? Now, with old age, we all begin to suffer from a variety of diseases or ailments or sicknesses or conditions, isn't it? But then I can still choose to be positive, isn't it? This body is perishable. This body does not last. Nobody lives forever, isn't it? This video will remain forever. But I have the choice in any given moment as to whether to stay healthy or fit in my mind first and then in my body as well. I can reverse my negative bodily conditions by thinking positive, not specifically about the diseases, but about life in general. So, everything is a choice, isn't it? If a person dies, that soul has chosen to go away. It is a very, very soul choice to die. This is a very hard thing to explain, and maybe this is a separate discussion altogether. But everything happens by choice. Everything happens by the virtue of where you choose to go in your life. So, as far as you are concerned, you have the choice to be the way you want to be in any given situation. Let's take examples. Someone mentioned about his ailing parents, for example. The only choice that you have, this may hurt you, but I don't care. You cannot control their health. You cannot control the way they behave. You cannot control how they live and how long they live. The only thing that you can do is be more loving towards them. Be more caring towards them if you think that they are suffering a lot. Make them happy. Make them laugh. Make them smile. Be sweet. Exude positivity from yourself. Demonstrate positivity. Let them grasp or grab those positive signals from you. That is the only thing that you can do. And that is the best thing that you can do, isn't it? Because there is so much scope within you to do all of that. Basically, when you focus on something, and the best thing to focus on is yourself, when you focus on yourself, there is a lot of scope to just raise your standards, to raise your energy, to raise your thinking level, and to raise yourself energetically to the point that you just think about something and you receive it. When you start looking at external conditions, they do not really seem to be under control, isn't it? But what is the best that I can do in this scenario in order to make that same negative scenario positive? First of all, considering death as negative, considering bad health condition as negative is itself wrong, because all of these are opportunities for a fresh new start. All of these are opportunities to head more in the positive direction. So it is very, very important to not consider these scenarios as negative, but then if you are considering them as negative, ask yourself what you can do to be positive in that moment. Not necessarily turn those scenarios positive, but what can I do in order to be positive in those very scenarios? If someone has behaved badly with me in the past and then I am about to interact with the same person, I do not care about that person's behavior, because I cannot control that person's behavior. That person might change tomorrow, that person might never change for the next 20 births. What I need to do is be strong, or at least show that I am strong enough to not get affected by that person's behavior. I need to be so self loving, so self caring, that that person's negativity does not come anywhere even near to me. So that is what I can do in a negative scenario. That is what I can do in a positive scenario. If it is possible for me to change the person, replace the shop, replace the mall that you go to, do that. If not, just don't care. Just do not care. I care about the presence of this person, because if I am heading in the positive direction, it is only because of this utterly negative person, isn't it? Otherwise, I would have not. So, grateful to this negative person, but I do not care about how they behave. About somebody's death and coping with that. That person is gone. That person had his own journey or her own journey, and now I am on my own journey. The only thing that I can control is my own journey. The only thing that I can do in my life now is keep myself happy and positive. The only thing that I can do right now for the people around me, for the little group of people that are part of my life, is continue to be self loving, continue to love them, continue to stay in a motivated place so that I can be of help to others as well. kids' health. Suppose someone has a chronic disease. That is that person's journey, first of all. Every person, and we have spoken separately about this in intentions as well, that we come forth with those tendencies and intentions, separate discussion altogether. But that soul, that person has come with intentions of his or her own, with ideas or basically desires to experience certain types of emotions or conditions, bodily, physically, materialistic, or emotionally, and those are specific to that person. So I can take physical care of that person. I can serve that person physically to the best test of my abilities. I can be absolutely caring and give my 100% devotion and time to that person in terms of physical care. But the rest of the journey is that person's only. I was speaking to my mother about this, and that may not be very, very relevant to this talk, but I actually said to her that it is so difficult to live for a person after 80, 90 years of age, because even if there are people taking care of you, you as an individual have to suffer, isn't it? You become weak, you become dependent, you cannot digest food, you have other problems as well, and then at the end you go and lie somewhere on the bed in a hospital and you have to suffer unnecessarily. So it is good to die early. That is what I said to her. This was a discussion that we were having. We often have these light-hearted fun discussions, but that is the point here, that an individual has to go through his or her own experiences without fail. What can I do? That is the only question that you have to ask yourself. What can I do in front of that rude person? What can I do in front of my ailing parents? What can I do after someone has died in my house? What can I do if someone has a disease? What can I do? I can be loving, I can be caring, I can be positive, I can be motivated, or I can be demotivated, I can think negative, I can continue to be flustered, I can continue to be noisy, I can continue to be cranky, I can continue to be negative, I can continue to just be so depressed and dull in my energy. I may be doing good makeup on the outside on my face, but what about my energy? If I am being negative, none of that is of use. That negativity is what, there is negativity is prolific in the world today. So no matter how positive you show yourself to be, your negativity, if any, reaches the other person or other parties much faster, and that has a real effect. You can see that effect on the other person as well, especially if the person is your kid or someone younger than you or someone who you are influential towards, someone who is influenced by you or someone who looks up to you. You should only be positive, not as a task, not as a job, but you should be naturally positive, you should be naturally loving, you should be so empowered, or at least show yourself to be empowered to begin with, and then develop that power from within, so that that reaches the other person. So even if that person continues to suffer physically, that person knows that mentally this person is there with me, and then I feel nothing even if I'm going through physical pain, as long as I know that someone loves me out there. So with the understanding that people, their thinking, their ideas, their notions, their sensitivities, their tendencies, their ways of behavior, their choices in lives are not in our hands. They are their own creations and they are on their own individual journeys. With this understanding, let's go to the guided meditation commentary. This guided meditation commentary is brought to you by awakenwithsagar.com. My life is the result of my actions. My life has always given me what I have wanted. In fact, I am grateful to my life for having given me more than what I have asked for. I always have the power to do what's right at the perfect time, and my actions are always in the correct direction. My actions always head in the direction of my desires. Small negative incidents or small negative thoughts do not have the power to bog me down. Therefore, I give less importance to less important things. I understand that the more negative I think about my life's scenarios, those kinds of things keep happening with me. It is therefore my opportunity now to change that. I enjoy keeping myself positive, elevated, happy, motivated, and enthusiastic every day. I take care of the way I think about things on a daily basis, and it is fun. No matter what makes me anxious, uncomfortable, disturbed, annoyed, irked, angry, restless, bogged down, or low, I will deal with it if it occurs. I do not need to waste my present moment and spoil my present energy. Every transaction is between me and the universe. And I trust that everything that the universe does for me is for my best. I trust the universe. I believe in the universe's ability to manifest what I want. I stay carefree in this awareness. I do not need to think about my future scenarios. That is the universe's job. I am fearless in the awareness that the universe blesses me in an incognito mode. I am clear that I want to feel good in the scenarios that I go through. My priorities are to be peaceful, to enjoy my life, to be free, to be happy, and to come across as a stable person. It is not my priority to be always correct in any scenario or to correct any scenario. My priority is to stay 100% unaffected and rock solid, unshakable and clear, while being authoritative, self-respecting and polite towards others. I have the power to create everything that I want. My mind and my thoughts are my creation tools. With each passing year, as I grow, I become wiser. I become more understanding towards life. With each passing year, the universe understands me much more deeply. I hereby bless myself that as I grow with each year, my energy automatically cleans itself up and my life experiences the facilities that come to me, the comfort that comes to me, the well being, love, and money that comes to me only continues to get better. I am grateful for this awareness.